We begin in a place that does not try to impress. Jericho does not rise dramatically from the landscape like a fortress of stone. It rests within it, low, quiet, almost unassuming. It sits deep in the Jordan Valley, a patch of green against the arid earth. And yet beneath this calm surface lies a depth of human history unmatched anywhere on earth. For more than 11,000 years, the human story has been written here. People did not just pass through this valley. They did not briefly settle and move on when the seasons changed. They stayed. This is why Jericho is widely considered the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. It is the anchor of our shared history. At the geographic and historical heart of Jericho lies Tel es-Sultan. To the casual observer, it appears to be nothing more than a dusty, sun-baked mound of earth. But to the archaeologist, this hill is a vertical library of the human experience. It was formed not by the slow processes of geology, but by the relentless accumulation of daily life. The mound stands over 20 meters high, composed entirely of the debris of collapsed cities, one stacked upon the other like layers in a cake. Every cubic inch of this soil represents a community that lived, built mud brick walls, cooked food, raised children, and eventually saw their world collapse, only for the next generation to level the ground and build again. Around 9,600 BCE, during the Epipaleolithic period, the Natufian hunter-gatherers made a radical choice here that would alter the trajectory of our species. They decided to stop wandering. They exploited the fertile soil and the abundant water to plant crops and build permanent shelters. This was the moment humanity moved from being passive inhabitants of nature to active shapers of it. This was not yet a city in the modern sense of traffic and commerce, but it was the seed from which all future cities would grow. Deep within the excavations of Tel es-Sultan lies a discovery that continues to baffle and astonish the scientific world. A massive stone tower, carbon dated to approximately 8,000 BCE. When archaeologists first uncovered it, they could barely believe its age. This structure was built thousands of years before the Great Pyramids of Giza, before the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, and long before the invention of the wheel or written language. Standing over 8 meters tall with an internal spiral staircase carved from solid stone, it is a feat of engineering that should not exist in the Stone Age. Its existence challenges every assumption we hold about early human societies. Building such a tower required more than just muscle. It required sophisticated planning, complex mathematics, and a social hierarchy capable of organizing a massive labor force. It implies that the people of Jericho had moved beyond simple family units into a cohesive society with shared goals. Theories abound regarding its purpose. Was it a defensive fortification against raids? A system to track the movement of the stars, a barrier against flash floods? Regardless of its function, the Tower of Jericho proves that as early as the Neolithic period, humanity was already capable of monumental ambition. Jericho was not just surviving, it was organizing. If the tower represents power, the excavations of the surrounding dwellings reveal the intimacy of daily life in the dawn of civilization. We find the remnants of circular homes known as roundhouses, sunk partially into the earth to escape the valley's blistering heat. These were not crude caves, but carefully maintained domestic spaces with polished plaster floors and designated areas for grain storage. The people here were innovators, domesticating emmer wheat and barley, and herding sheep and goats, transitioning fully into the agrarian lifestyle. Perhaps most poignant are the burial customs discovered beneath the floors of these homes. The dead were not exiled to distant cemeteries. They were buried right under the living spaces of their relatives. In some cases, skulls were removed, covered in plaster to reconstruct the facial features, and kept on display, a practice suggesting a complex form of ancestor worship. This indicates a psychological shift. The house was not just a shelter for the living, but a permanent spiritual vessel for the lineage. Life here revolved around the stability provided by the Aina Sultan spring. In a chaotic world of climate shifts and droughts, this water source allowed Jericho to endure. It turned the precariousness of desert life into the certainty of permanence. As the centuries bled into millennia, Jericho did not fade into the mists of prehistory. Instead, it became a prize. Its strategic location and agricultural wealth made it a target for every rising power in the ancient Near East. The Canaanites, the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Greeks all marched through this valley. Yet, the unique character of Jericho is that it was never truly replaced. It was absorbed. The city adapted to the tastes and demands of each new ruler without losing its fundamental identity as an oasis. This transformation reached its zenith under the Hasmonean dynasty and later under King Herod the Great. Recognizing the mild winter climate, they turned Jericho into a royal resort city, the Palm Springs of antiquity. They constructed opulent winter palaces, sunken gardens, and massive swimming pools, all fed by sophisticated aqueduct systems that channeled water from the surrounding wadis. Jericho became a place of political intrigue and immense luxury, producing lucrative balsam and date wine for the Roman world. Even as the political landscape shifted violently, from Jewish kings to Roman procurators, the agricultural heart of the city continued to beat. Empires were transient, rising and falling like the sun, but Jericho's role as a sanctuary remained constant. Jericho's significance transcends the physical layers of stone and mud. It is deeply embedded in the spiritual geography of the world. For billions of people, the name Jericho evokes stories of faith, testing, and transformation. It is the city whose walls tumbled down at the sound of Joshua's trumpets, a narrative that, while debated archaeologically, cemented the city's place in theological history. It is the place where the prophet Elisha is said to have purified the spring waters, a miracle that metaphorically represents the city's life-giving nature. Dominating the skyline is the Mount of Temptation, where tradition holds that Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, rejecting the devil's offer of worldly power. Today, a Greek Orthodox monastery clings precariously to the cliff face, defying gravity just as the hermits who lived in its caves defied the comforts of the world. Below, in the city streets, pilgrims flock to the sycamore tree associated with Zacchaeus the tax collector. These sites transform the landscape into a living text. For centuries, pilgrims, monks, and travelers have come here not just to see a city, but to touch the physical evidence of their beliefs. Jericho became a bridge between the earthly and the divine. With the arrival of Islam, Jericho entered a new golden age of cultural and artistic refinement, specifically during the Umayyad period in the 8th century. The city was no longer just a functional agricultural hub. It became a canvas for the aesthetic ambitions of the caliphs. The supreme example of this is Hisham's palace, Khirbet al-Mafjar, a hunting lodge and bath complex that displays incredible architectural sophistication. Although the palace was devastated by a massive earthquake in 747 CE before it was fully completed, what remains gives us a glimpse of its grandeur. The site features intricate stucco carvings and one of the largest and most preserved mosaic floors in the world. The famous Tree of Life mosaic, depicting a lion attacking a gazelle on one side of a fruit tree and grazing gazelles on the other, is a masterpiece of storytelling through stone. It reflects a society that valued beauty, leisure, and the complexities of the natural world. Even after the center of political power shifted to Baghdad and later to Istanbul, Jericho remained a vital stop on the pilgrimage routes to Mecca and Jerusalem. It was never abandoned. The call to prayer joined the sound of the wind, adding another layer to the city's sonic history. The camera pans across the Wadi Kelt, capturing the majestic ruins of the Roman and Herodian aqueducts. These are not just ditches, they are architectural bridges spanning deep ravines, built with the famous Roman opus reticulatum, diamond-shaped brickwork. The visual scale of these water systems is staggering, showing how the Romans engineered the landscape to submit to their will. We then move to the ruins of the winter palaces. Although much is now foundation, digital reconstruction or artist renderings can be overlaid to show the original opulence, the peristyle courtyards, the frescoes mimicking marble, and the immense swimming pools that reflect the desert sky. The visual here is one of lost grandeur, the Ozymandias effect. We see the broken pillars lying in the sand, surrounded by wild scrub, a poignant reminder of the fleeting nature of political power. Yet in the background, the date palms still grow, visually reinforcing the theme that while the palaces crumbled, the agriculture that supported them survived. The screen changes to the sepia and black and white tones of early photography. We see daguerreotypes and glass plate images from the late 1800s and early 1900s. These images are hauntingly beautiful. They show Bedouin guides, Ottoman soldiers, and peasant farmers standing amidst the ruins or working in the fields. We see the Jordan Hotel in 1912, a building that signals the arrival of modern tourism. Men in fezzes and European suits stand on balconies. We see the dusty, unpaved streets lined with mud brick houses that have since vanished. These photographs are frozen moments of transition. They capture a Jericho that was waking up to the modern world, yet still deeply entrenched in traditional ways of life. The visual texture of the grain, the scratches on the film, and the high contrast of the desert light give these images a ghost-like quality. They remind the viewer that the people of the past were real, staring back at the lens with curiosity and dignity. The visual tone becomes more somber as we view archival footage and photographs from the post-1948 era. We see rows of canvas tents erected in the dust, the Aqabat Jabba and Ain el-Sultan refugee camps. We see lines of refugees walking with their belongings, a visual echo of the biblical exiles of the past. But the camera also finds resilience. We see open-air classrooms where children sit on the ground, determined to learn. We see women baking bread in communal ovens and men rebuilding shelters with mud and stone. The visuals focus on the faces, tired but determined. These images are crucial to the narrative of continuity. They show that Jericho's history of inhabitation is often a history of providing shelter to the displaced. The visual narrative shifts from the glory of ancient kings to the dignity of modern survival. It is a testament to the city's role as a sanctuary in times of catastrophe. We move to color footage, perhaps slightly faded, from the late 1960s. The visual landscape is one of flux. We see military vehicles, checkpoints, and the changing of flags, symbols of the political upheaval of the Six-Day War. However, the camera cuts away from the soldiers to the markets. We see mounds of bright yellow bananas, crates of oranges, and the vibrant chaos of the souk. We see the municipal buildings, the post office, the bus station, the infrastructure of a functioning city. These visuals are mundane, but their mundanity is the point. They prove that despite the shifting tectonic plates of geopolitics, the daily engine of Jericho kept running. People bought groceries, went to work, and maintained their homes. The visual story here is one of stubborn normalcy in the face of abnormal circumstances. It reinforces the central thesis. Armies march through, but the city remains. Jericho challenges our fundamental understanding of history. In the grand sweep of human existence, cities are usually ephemeral entities. They rise, they flourish, and eventually they succumb to the sand. Yet this valley defies that inevitable cycle of decay. Its significance does not lie in the height of its monuments or the wealth of its kings, but in the simple, staggering fact of its survival. It stands as the ultimate witness to our species' most defining characteristic: resilience. For 11 millennia, through the invention of agriculture, the birth of organized religion, the march of relentless empires, and the turbulence of the modern age, The human pulse of this oasis has never stopped beating.